Hello there, Di here. Today we're making a wallet card or a gift card holder, starting with an A4 sheet of paper, or whatever size your normal sheet of paper is, if you're still on imperial measurements. It's just divided up approximately. The first piece is, the largest piece is 9 centimetres or 3.5 inches roundabout. Not important particularly. The second piece is 7.5 centimetres or 3 inches. The third piece is 6.5 centimetres or 2.5 inches. The next one is 5 centimetres or 2 inches, and you're left with a little strip left over, which we're using for the tam. That's about 2 centimetres. We're going to take the largest piece and score it in the middle, which for the A4 is at 4 1/8 inches. We're rotating between metric and imperial here because of my non-metric scoreboard. So it's 4 1/8, 4 and 4 2/8. And that gives you 3 score lines, which you then just sort of roll. You don't crease them hard, you just fold them very gently so that you end up with a rounded fold, not a nice crisp fold. You just pinch each of there you can see there, with my very poor lighting, the rounded end that gives you enough space once you've got the rest of the wallet assembled to accommodate the papers that are inside. You do exactly the same with the second piece, the 7.5 centimetre, and you score that just the same, 4 1/8, 4 2/8, and 4, to give you the same 3 score lines, which again you gently pinch around to give you that rounded shape. The remaining 2 pieces, the 2 smaller pieces, the 6.5 and the 5 centimetre piece, need to be cut into 2, and to do that you need to measure between the last score line, the one furthest from the middle, the centre, and the edge of the wallet, and just checking that on the other side to make sure it's the same. And I think in this case it was about 10 centimetres. So both of those 2 remaining pieces of cardstock are cut into 2 10 centimetre lengths. So one's 10 centimetres by 5. That's the one I'm cutting now. And the remainder is, the other part is 6.5 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And you can see the only bit that you should have left over from that is the part that is taken up by the scoring on the larger pieces. There's very little waste in this piece of paper. Once you've done that, we need to cut out some circles from the 4 smaller pieces, the 4 10 centimetre pieces that we've just done. And I like to just mark the centre, because it's such an obvious, they need to be fairly exact, so just mark the centre of each piece and clip them out I'm using a 1-inch punch. Now this idea is certainly not my own. I've really come up with original ideas. I first saw a wallet made by Chrissy Crosser in her attic, and I'll put the link below. She made a wallet for her son, and I thought what a brilliant idea that was. Mine is slightly different. I didn't use the brads that she used on the front, though they'd look really attractive. And she put in a little license window pocket in one side of hers. So have a look at her video. It's a lovely little card, but I'm just purely copying it. So full credit to you, and thanks for Chrissy for the inspiration. Here I'm just putting a little bead of glue, a little wonky bead of glue, around the edges of the inside piece, 7.5 centimetre strip. And you really just need enough to keep it closed, but particularly across the fold, because that's where the most pressure is going to be. Line it up nicely. And then don't try and fold it until it's well adhered. I got a little bit of wax on that. I'd been playing with some wax on my Stampin' Up cutter, and got some on the paper, but I'll get it off after with some adhesive, the adhesive eraser. Now we're just going to do the same for the little pockets with the cutouts. We're just going to put a bead of glue around 3 sides of those and glue the smaller one to the front of the larger piece. Some adhesive erasers are brilliant. I couldn't imagine why one would need one when I first started crafting, and I tell you, I finally bought one, and there's not a project goes past that I don't use the eraser. It's good for getting so many little marks and blemishes off cards and other projects. So we just do both of those the same. Trying not to get glue everywhere, as I almost invariably do. I really regret that Scotch have stopped making those much finer red tips on their quick dry glue containers. They were brilliant, and stupidly I threw my last one out. I didn't realise they'd changed them, and when I bought the new one, no fine tip anymore. Now I'm just using my Zutta to round the corners, 1/2 inch rounder, to round the corners on those internal pockets. Sometimes it pays to turn them over and do them from the other side as well, because they, when they're glued together, sometimes it takes a bit to get them smooth. And also just trimming up the side there was just a whisker, as you can see. This is one project where it needs to be as precise as possible. So just a little bit of trimming. You really want those internal pockets not to cross the score lines at all. You want them to get fairly close to, but certainly not to occlude the fold lines, otherwise the little wallet won't fold nicely once you've got it finished. Just trimming the 4 corners of the main piece of the wallet, rounding those off. Again, turning it over and going back from the other side. Bit of glue in there, stopping it from cutting smoothly. Just check that it folds where you want it to fold and folds neatly without too much problem, and that it's nice and square. I think Chrissy's idea for a wallet card was, and I've not seen any others on YouTube, I'm sure they're there, but I wasn't able to find any in a quick search. I only found how to make leather wallets. Just checking with my little palette knife. I've got a fine little palette knife, and it's brilliant for just slipping in where you've been adhering things down to make sure that there's nothing stopping a gift card or a photograph or a little note card or whatever it is you're going to put in this wallet. So that's where I'm just showing. Make sure that your internal pockets do not go across that score line. Otherwise the wallet simply won't close. Just going in and adhering those down. Must be the world's worst gluer. I have to be very careful not to use too much glue. I must be one of those more is better sort of people, I think, because I've found to my cost that putting too much glue on really does give you problems with buckling, and you really do want things to stick, but you don't want some of the problems you get when there's too much on. Just going in and adjusting that to making sure it's as perfect as it can be in those corners. Giving it a push to make sure it's adhering. I haven't speeded this up at all. I was going to, because it's a bit like watching paint dry, watching me do things like this, but sometimes it's nice to know the real time that things take to make, and this was, I think, about 18 minutes for the whole video, but that's real time. That's how long this thing takes to make. I did cut out a couple of little bits, but they were just me fiddling around or going over to get the zutta from the drawer or things like that that weren't really part of the making time. This is really quite a quick little project. As I say, Chris put a window in hers, which looked really good and is more like a wallet that's got a little license window in the wallet. And that would take a little more time because you'd have to cut the frame out and put in your clear plastic. But it is quite a neat little thing and quick to make. I was just thinking there, and I think that's why I'm indicating that it'd be quite good to pop it through an embossing folder. I remember my father had a wallet that looked as if it had put it through a dotty embosser. It had like some sort of embossing on the outside. So you could do that too, just to give it a bit more texture. I'll show you one in a moment that I made with a bit of textured cardstock. Here I'm just cutting off a couple of tabs, one to make a little closure and one to make a strap for holding the wallet shut. So this little closure I score at 1/2 inch from each end. And there, those 2 1/2-inch tabs are the bits that actually get adhered to the front of the wallet. And the little section in between, which is about 3/4 of an inch, I just pull gently with my thumb from the score line to the score line through my bone folder, and that just breaks up the fibres a little and makes it slightly concave and more malleable, so it's easier to slip the little strap through it. I basically do the same on the strap. I give it about 3/4 or an inch of glue down time, a tab that I'll glue it to, and then I just slip the rest through my bold folder from that crease line to soften it, to break the fibres, to make it easier to manipulate. If you don't do that, you'll find it tends to form its own breaks and it looks a bit ugly. Just marking the centre point there for putting the back of the strap onto the back of the wallet. So that little straight tab that hasn't been distressed, you can just put a bit of glue on that and adhere it to the back of the wallet. I smooth it out with my finger because you don't want glue glooping out all over the surface of the wallet at this stage. Trying to keep things clean. So just putting that down up to the score line. So the softened part of it is the bit that's sticking out. Turning it over and adhering the little closure piece. So we're going to put, you can see there where it's slightly concave, convex. putting some glue on each of the two side tabs. That's where Chrissy put brads through hers, which looked really effective. And if you're going to put brads, I'd attach this to the main part, the front of the wallet, before you start putting any of the pockets in, so you can hide the prongs. Just adhering that over the strap where you want it on the front. Holding it down till it grabs. You can see it opens very easily, closes very easily. Just going to trim off the excess off that strap. And that's pretty much it. As I say, you could emboss the outside of the wallet if you wanted to. You could attach brads. You could put initials on it. I did one for my son, the first one I did, a prototype, and I'll show you that in a moment. And I put his initials on it. Here I'm just popping in a sort of business card size just to make sure that the pockets are free. Chrissy had put lots of Bunnings cards in hers. Those little scraps you see there are all that remains of the sheet of A4 paper. Here's the second card I made. This one was made with a textured paper, so it's got sort of a slightly, you can see there, slightly leathery look. It was a bit heavier cardstock. Otherwise it's just exactly the same. They look good with the initials on. Here's the one I made initially, my son's birthday coming up. That was with a piece of Nina cardstock, that neutral colour, desert sand or something. And I stitched around, as Chrissy had done on hers, I stitched around that to give it a more definition. I just went into a free monogram site, or you can just design your own if you've got the stamps. I made a small box also using the Crafty Owl site, link below. Thanks for watching. Bye now.